Good evening. There are parts of this work of which I very seldom speak, and never in public. And so if you are here, it is because you are lovers of God and not seekers after argument. You are not come to compare metaphysics or to defend an opinion, but to rest a little while in the quiet of a small room and touch that which the world cannot give. I tell you frankly, the world at large has no taste for this. It demands proofs and bargains and spectacles, and when it cannot purchase them at the altar, it hires them in the marketplace. But this belongs not to the marketplace. This belongs to those who have heard, if only faintly, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. And who would dare to gather not for gain but for God? We have one question, and we will not multiply it, for in its simplicity lies the gate to freedom. When the chatter of thoughts and the flutter of senses fall asleep at night, what remains? Not what remains of your to-do list, nor of your griefs or your triumphs, not what remains of the body's pulse or the brain's measures, but what remains of you. Can you follow me to this sublime poverty? Strip from yourself the ornaments with which the world dresses you, the labels your own mind has pasted upon you, mother, father, artist, patient, debtor, doctor, and stand a while in the nakedness of being. In that stillness, tell me, have you ever noticed the one who does not move when thoughts exhaust themselves? Your thoughts sleep. The I am does not be still and know that I am God. It does not say, be busy and convince God you are worthy, nor be anxious and twist heaven's arm. It says, be still. There is a holy difference between curiosity and consecration. Curiosity pries open heaven to count its treasures, to prove or disprove, to run from church to church as if the kingdom could be found in changing garments. While consecration stands barefoot on the ground, it has whispers, here I am, and waits. We are not here to pry. We are here to be. We are not here to improve the human scene by the human will. We are here to yield, to let, to consent to the presence that is already the life of us. I am that I am. Do you hear? Not I am what the world says of me, not I am the sum of my thoughts, but I am. That word, if whispered into the night with reverence, becomes a lamp at your feet. Now, if you have been taught from childhood to think of God as somewhere else, distant, occasional, capricious, you will not enter easily into this room. But I must say to you, and say it gently yet firmly, in all the history of the world, God has never punished anyone for anything. Men have reaped the tares they have sown, and then pinned their harvest upon heaven. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. Not as God smites, so shall you suffer. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty, not the bondage of a cosmic tyrant. And the Spirit of the Lord is not circling beyond Saturn, waiting for you to behave. The Spirit of the Lord is your consciousness of being, the life within your life, the mind of you. Hear the Master, Christ Jesus. The kingdom of God is within you. I and my Father are one. If that is true, and in this room we will dare to act as if it is true, then what we seek tonight is not a visitation from afar, but the recognition of what abides when your thoughts unlatch and your senses dim. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. What is that, watcher, if not the eye that witnesses your rising and your lying down? Mark this well. We are not here to induce phenomena. We are not here to count visions or to add experiences to our spiritual scrapbook. You must not pray for yourselves. You must not enter this with a shopping list in one hand and a stopwatch in the other. Take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, for your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. We make no bargains. We offer no proposals. Prayer in this room is not wordy nor anxious. It is the hush that says, speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. It is not the mind reaching outward, but the soul relaxing inward to a presence that is not in time, not in fluctuation, not in danger of sleep. If in the silent hours you are given nothing but peace, you have been given the all. Perhaps you will say, yes, but when my head rests on the pillow, I vanish. I am swallowed by dreams or by blankness. Let us be honest. You do not vanish. The instruments quiet. The orchestra puts down its bows. Yet the hall stands. The acoustics remain. The architecture holds. So with you, thought is an instrument. Sense is an instrument. They labor by day and cease by night, and blessed is their ceasing. But you are not your instrument. There is a witnessing, an isness, that does not require a single thought for its being. Indeed, it is the ground upon which all thought dances and sleeps. I am speaking to the part of you that has always known this, though it may have been covered over by noise and fear. I am not instructing it. I am inviting it to come forth. And now, before we move on, we must consecrate our question. Do you consent to ask it not for results, not for remedies, not to find a new lever to pull upon the universe, but to know God? If you do, then this room has changed, and you have changed in it. For where two or three are gathered in that name, not the name of a creed, nor of a man, nor of a movement, but the name I am, there is an opening, there is a rest deeper than sleep. We will in due season speak of simple practices, and we will speak of law, of sowing peace and reaping rest, but tonight we set our feet on holy ground. We lay aside the curiosity that hurries and the fear that bargains. We choose the stillness that knows. The question stands before us like a doorway. When thoughts and senses sleep, what remains? Answer it not from memory, for memory is one of the instruments that will be put away tonight. Answer it not with the mouth, for the mouth grows tired and the answer is voiceless. Answer it by consenting to be. And if even that seems too much, then borrow the promise. Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. It is not your holding that makes him present. It is his being that holds you. If there is a lamp in this house, it is already lit. Sit with me a moment and let us look upon that light together, not to own it, not to trade it, but to be it. Now, having stood a moment at the doorway, let us speak plainly and tenderly about the furniture in this room. Your thoughts, your senses, your feelings, your memories, these are instruments. They have their excellence and their necessity in the daily pageant. And because they are instruments, they are also subject to fatigue. They begin, they do their work, they tire, and they sleep. The eyes become heavy. The ears turn inward. The tongue falls silent. The very organ by which you store and retrieve memories slows its spinning. And blessed is the ceasing, for who could endure the din of perpetual rehearsal? But you, my dear ones, are not these instruments. You are that in which their play is heard. You are the room, not the violin, the sea, not the foam. Mark this well. The mind, as you commonly know it, the thinking, comparing, judging faculty, is an instrument. Mind forms, mind pictures, mind arranges. It is the tool of expression in the realm of time and thought. But the Master, Christ Jesus, did not say, mind is somewhere far off. He said, the kingdom of God is within you. And we of this way have learned to say, God is individual consciousness, the mind of you. What do we mean? We mean that the reality of your being, the I am, that is, your very awareness of being aware, is the infinite expressed as your consciousness. It is not the chatter of mind, it is the light by which the chatter is noticed. And therefore, paradoxically, this instrument called mind must be quieted to reveal the mind that is God. The lantern must cease to swing for the flame to be seen steady. Have you watched a stream when the wind drops, the riffles calm, and yet the riverbed has been there all along unshaken? So it is with you. When the stream of thinking ceases, the riverbed of awareness remains. Do not make a God out of the stream. It begins and ends with weather. The bed does not slumber. The bed does not rouse. It simply is, bearing quietly the witness of all that passes over it. Be still and know that I am God. The stillness is not the goal. It is the gentle condition in which the knowing that is already present may be recognized. Now you will say to me, but I feel myself to be these very thoughts. When they subside, I am gone. That is conditioning, not truth. If in the silence of the night all words fall away and there is only a soft, undifferentiated peace who comes at dawn to say, I slept well, who was there to register that peace, to bear the news into morning? The witness survives both talk and its absence. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. Where is this watcher, if not as the core of your very being? Not a sentry walking the parapet of some far-off city, not a deity drowsing in the heavens, but the I am that says I before the mouth can form a syllable. It is important that you do not strain at this. No struggle, no effort. Effort belongs to the instrument and tires it further. This witnessing awareness is not an object to be caught. It is the subject that is already catching. You cannot see it as you see a cup on a table. You can only rest as it. And if that seems obscure, make no argument with it. Let the body rest. Let the mind dangle like a glove at the wrist. And attend not by reaching out, but by ceasing to reach. Take no thought, the Master said, for your life. He did not advise passivity in conduct. He invited receptivity in spirit. Take no thought does not mean take no action. It means do not manufacture God with thinking. Consider for a moment one simple exercise, not as a technique to force experience, but as a posture of consent. Close the mouth of the mind by letting the next thought come and go without ownership. It will come. That is the mind's nature. It will go. That is also its nature. Between them, before them, there is a clear sky. You cannot hold the sky, but you can notice that while clouds form and dissolve, the sky is unhurt and unhurried by them. In that sky, you are not the weather. In that sky, you are the space that welcomes and dismisses without preference. That is awareness. That is the I am that abides when the instruments are set down. Do not be confused by words. When I say mind, I speak of two orders. There is the human mind, a splendid clerk, but given to error when stuffed with superstition, fear, and the belief in two powers. And there is mind, the one, which is God as your consciousness, which needs no opinions, no defenses, no hours of sleep to renew itself. The trick, though we do not like tricks here, is simply this. Allow the clerk to close his ledger at night. Let him go home. Let him sleep. And remain quietly as that which does not open or close, does not keep accounts, does not wear out. In him we live and move and have our being. Not on him, not under him, not separated from him, but in him, as him, one being, one life, one light individualized as your very awareness. Some of you have said to me in letters, I try to witness, and then I lose it. Beloved, you cannot lose what you are. You can only stop noticing. If a bird sings outside your window and you turn your head, the song did not stop because you looked away. So do not make a career of holding the witness. Rest as the witness, and let the mind's looking and not looking be the passing of birds. You will find, without pride and without drama, that even in the moments when dreams are vivid or fears attempt their old theatrics, there is a corner, the whole house, really, that does not join. It has compassion for the dreamer, but it does not enter the scene. That is your safety. That is your peace. It would be cruelty to ask the eyes to keep watch forever, or the brain to calculate without sleep. But the mercy of God is such that your reality does not depend upon their waking. The mercy of God is that God is your very awareness. And God does not nap between universes. Therefore you may sleep and you may wake. You may dream and you may enter the deep. Yet the one who says I before any content arises abides as itself. This is not a theory. It is the simplest fact recognized in quiet. And from this recognition flows a new way of resting. You will not try to make the night profitable. You will not bargain for visions. You will let the instruments lie, knowing the musician never leaves his own being. And this is life eternal, said the Master, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent, knowing, not collecting notions, knowing, not rehearsing arguments. You will know as you allow the mind to become transparent to the soul's light, not by adding more opinions about God, but by yielding the floor to God as the light of your consciousness. Then the sense mind serves as it was intended, an instrument, while the I am remains the quiet, untroubled witness that neither slumbers nor sleeps. In that witness, fear has no roots, for fear is born of separation. In that witness, rest is natural, for rest belongs not to a body drained of energy, but to a being recognized as one with its source. So let us agree on this foundation. You are not the thoughts that sleep. You are the awareness that abide. You are not the senses that tire. You are the light in which their reports are known. No struggle, no effort, only a simple, faithful noticing and a consent to be what God already is in you. As ye sow peace, consent, quiet, so shall ye reap rest, clarity, continuance. And in this sowing there is no strain, because the seed is your nature and the soil is your own heart. Now, let us take the day and night as a single holy teaching and see how the one moves not at all while the scenes change before it. In the waking state, you rise to the labors and the sweetnesses of the hour. The mind is busy. The senses report traffic and birds and the taste of bread. If you are not careful, you suppose that this activity is life, that this parade of sensations is your identity. You say, I am tired, I am inspired, I am worried, and it is all very human and sometimes very beautiful. But mark this, while the waves of experience rise and fall, there is a shore that does not move, and it is as that shore that you are aware of the rising and the falling. The waking state is a pageant. You are the stillness in which the pageant appears. Be still and know that I am God. The stillness does not begin when the curtain goes up. It is the ground upon which every curtain is hung. At night you enter dreams, symbols, and echoes, the mind revisiting its own pictures, knitting together threads from the day and others from long ago. There is meaning, perhaps. There is comedy. There is fright sometimes. But there is also a curious fact. In the heart of every dream there is a spectator. Even when the scene is fevered, something in you remains, one half step back from the drama, registering its unfoldment. That spectator is not frightened, though a frightened scene may be playing, and that spectator is not amused, though comedy may leap on the stage. The dream is motion. The spectator is the unmotioned. This is vital because it shows you, even in the mind's theater, that you are not your pictures. You are that by which pictures, sleeping or waking, are known. And then, most wonderful, there is the deep. You call it dreamless sleep, a contentless quiet. No pictures, no words, no clocks, No arguments about God or the world, only a great hush. Now here is the question that opens a gate. In the morning, when you say, I slept well, who reports it? Not the mind that was churning in dreams, not the senses that lay in abeyance, not the tongue that lay still in the mouth. Who carries the news across that quiet and delivers it on the shore of a new day? Only the witness could do that. The witness survives the absence of content. The witness remains when the instruments are folded away. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. Where then is Israel kept, if not in the sanctuary of your very being? The watcher is not a deity pacing the stars. The watcher is God as your awareness, untroubled by the changes of state. Now, some of you have been taught to fear the quiet, to dread that if thoughts cease, there will be nothing left of you, that the void will swallow the self and you will be lost. But what is the testimony of your own nights? The quiet did not end you. It refreshed you. The silence did not erase you. It restored you. If awareness is present in the absence of thought, then the loss you dread never occurs. Perfect love casteth out fear. And where is perfect love, if not as the very essence of that presence which remains when both thoughts and their opposites have retired? Do not condemn yourself for having been afraid. Fear is only the product of believing in a self apart from God. But here again the Master's word, I and my Father are one. And know that oneness is not a theory about a union to be attained. It is the fact by which waking, dreaming, and deep sleep are witnessed without interruption. The one does not reunite with itself each morning. It abides, and so you abide in it. You may say, but in dreams I am deceived, and in waking I am driven, and in deep sleep I am gone. The deception, the drivenness, the seeming absence, all these are changes in the content of experience, not in the knower of experience. Distinguish, then, between the film and the screen. The film may show deserts and oceans, sorrow and triumph. It may burn, it may tangle. But the screen is not charred by fire, nor soaked by storm. The screen is constant. You are not invited to admire the screen as a holy object. You are invited to realize you are that screen, awareness itself, and that God is that awareness, individualized as you. In Him we live and move and have our being. Not sometimes, not when the credits roll, and not when they begin, but always. I had a letter once from a nurse whose night hours were filled with anxious dreams, a recurring scene of losing her way in a ward, alarm sounding, hands empty. She would wake tense, as if she had failed her patients in truth. But she began, in the few seconds before sleep, simply to acknowledge without words, I am. Not I am a nurse. Not I am going to do better. But I am. She did not pray for her dreams to change. She did not instruct God in the needs of the ward. She remembered the witness. After a week, she wrote again. The dream still visited, but there is a place watching that does not run. In that place, a quiet dried the panic, and before long she slept through the night without the old terror. What happened? The state changed because identity stood still. As ye sow identity, peace, consent, so shall ye reap rest. You cannot make the witness more present by effort. The witness is not a product of discipline. It is the presence before which discipline is possible. Your part is the smallest part. To notice that in waking there is a knower of the day. In dreams there is a knower of the dream. In deep sleep there is a knower of the refreshment. If you will grant this, not with argument, but with quiet assent, you will find a strange courage rising, because you will see that there is nowhere to fall. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. Even in distressing dreams, the witness does not descend into hell. It beholds, and in beholding, it begins to unmask the unreality of fear. Do not make an enemy of the states. Waking serves, dreaming serves, deep sleep serves. In every one of them, you are invited to rest as that which neither hurries the day nor resists the night. In waking, answer your duties with gentleness, but do not attach identity to their outcome. In dreams, if fear arises, let it arise without condemnation. It cannot touch the watcher. In deep sleep, do not try to carry a lamp into the dark. The light that never sleeps is already there. And if you should ask how to carry this through the threshold of evening, the answer is not complicated. Take no thought, not a vacant indifference, but a holy yielding. Let the instruments fold, and let the word that speaks without syllables be the last awareness. Lo, I am with you always. So hear the core of this revelation as the simplest gospel across waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. One presence witnesses all without change. This witnessing presence is not other than God. This witnessing presence is not other than you as God individualized. Therefore, the terror that you will be dissolved by silence is a superstition. It has no law to sustain it. For where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And the Spirit of the Lord is the very awareness by which liberty is known. Rest, then, not as a body collapsing at day's end, but as a being already complete in God. And when you rise, rise from the same stillness, for the light did not blink. It watched through the night, and it walks as you into the morning. Now, because we live in an age of instruments, let us honor them in their place and then quietly move beyond them. I have sat, as some of you have, in rooms where wires and paste and gentle machines register the tides of the brain, alpha lapping into theta, theta into delta, and I tell you there is usefulness in it. There is kindness in those who watch to help a body rest and a nervous system settle. Give thanks for every honest labor that lightens human fear. But mark this well. The instrument can trace a wave. It cannot weigh the I am. A lens may photograph a landscape. It cannot photograph the one who is seeing. A scale may weigh the loaf. It cannot weigh the hunger or the love that bakes. So with these clever devices, they show us the weather of mind. They do not show us the sky of awareness in which all weather comes and goes. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. No register can catch that watcher, because the watcher is the life that beholds the register. What, then, are they seeing when the screens dance? They are seeing the mind's activity, and in seeing it, they may assist the mind to quiet, and we bless that. But do not mistake the clerk for the proprietor. Do not confuse the flicker of neurons with the light by which flicker is known. The machine can only testify to movement. It cannot testify to the unmoved. It can report the orchestra's volume. It cannot report the silence in which music appears and to which it returns. And you, beloved, are that silence individualized, that awareness in which waking, dreaming, and deep sleep are paraded without leaving a mark. In Him we live and move and have our being. Not in voltages, not in charts, though they may be useful, but in God as our very consciousness. God is individual consciousness, the mind of you, not the mind's chatter, not its waves, but the mind by which even chatter is illumined. Now in the things of spirit, because spirit is the life of you, we do not proceed by counting, nor by comparing, nor by constructing theories to corral God. We proceed by devotion. Take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, for your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. Do you hear the revolution in that? Take no thought does not mean despise wisdom or refuse help. It means cease manufacturing God with thinking. Prayer here is not analysis. Prayer is receptivity. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. And if you answer, but I do not hear, then be still and realize that hearing is not with ears and words, but with identity. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know I am. Not a syllable need be formed. Let the last awareness as you pass into the night be the most ancient name. I am. Not the I am of roles and reports, but the I am by which all roles are worn and laid aside. This requires a humility the world does not reward. The world says pile up facts, accumulate methods, chart your progress, and if you can draw a prettier graph than your neighbor, you are advancing. But in the Christ way, knowing is not accumulation. Knowing is realization. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Free from what? From dependence on appearances, from the superstition that life is in effects. Truth is not a larger ledger. It is the living recognition I and my Father are one, and therefore whatever moves across the surface, wave, dream, deep sleep cannot add to nor subtract from the life that is I am. Spiritual knowing is to stand as that oneness, quietly, no boasting, no show, and to let mind, that is, God as your consciousness, govern mind the instrument without interference. Some years ago, a young neurologist found his way into one of these small rooms. He came reverently, but with his pockets full of charts, night after night, of his own delta rhythms, annotated with caffeine intake and evening steps. He was exhausted by caring, if you can imagine such a thing. He asked me if, by learning to sink himself more quickly into delta, he might optimize his rest. I told him, as I am telling you, that you cannot optimize God. You can only cease obstructing. That evening, he did not learn a technique. He learned to say nothing. He sat for 15 minutes before sleep with one acknowledgement only. I am. Not I am tired, not I am a physician, not I am optimizing, but simply I am. He wrote some weeks later, embarrassed to confess that he had stopped bringing the machine home. You might call it coincidence, he said, but I find a rest that does not depend on how the graph looks. I do call it coincidence? No, I call it law, the natural appearing of the unseen. Law, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. He sowed identity, he reaped rest. You may also call it mercy, since mind, free of opinion, invariably forms harmony. Now, please do not take this to mean we cast away the chart or despise the helper. We rejoice in every honest art that eases human fear. But when you come to the threshold of night, put down your clipboards and enter your closet. Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. And what is that secret place, if not the awareness that is already your life? There, words are an intrusion. There, you do not petition sleep. You do not bargain for dreams. You do not promise God you will try harder tomorrow. You rest in I am. You trust that your Father, which seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly. The reward is not a number, it is peace. The reward is not a graph, it is the continuity of awareness gently recognized, so that whether the mind is active or inactive, you abide as that which never nods. Another letter came to me, a woman who worked with instruments by day and wore out her eyes on dials. She wrote that after adopting this wordless turning, she could not prove anything to a skeptic, and she had given up trying. But, she said, there is a new habit in me. I yield before sleep, and I am born. You will say, coincidence. I will say again, law. As ye sow peace and impersonal love, so shall ye reap rest. The mind, freed for a few quiet minutes from self-concern, becomes a clear window, and through that window the soul's harmony appears as lawful effect. You may call it grace. We of this way call it the nature of God revealed. And so, while the world rushes to measure, we, for a little while, let ourselves be measured by God. Not judged, not condemned, for where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty, but met, held, recognized as the very expression of that Spirit. This is our refrain. From counting waves to knowing the water, from analyzing prayer to being prayer, from self-seeking outcomes to impersonal receptivity. If you will take this posture, humble, simple, without demand, you will find that the night itself becomes sanctuary, not problem, that the witness is not an idea visited on Sundays, but the life you are, continuous, untroubled, awake within all states. And from that recognition, you will be ready for a deeper practice, not to obtain, but to consent night after night to the light that never sleeps. Now let us make this plain and tender, because it is to be lived, not admired. When the lamps dim and the house falls quiet, set a small altar in the heart, not by building, but by ceasing to build. Sit as you are, comfortably, without postures to prove holiness, and let the day unhook itself from your shoulders. Do not gather the hours for one more review. Lay down the ledgers, lay down the triumphs and the stings. You are not here to petition, to bargain, to inform God of what God has watched all day. Take no thought for your life, for your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. We do not come to get, we come to consent. We come to the threshold of night to yield the instruments and to rest as that which never tires. Now, identity first. This is the foundation, because if you begin with need, you will end with need, but if you begin with truth, you will rest in truth. In a whisper or without sound at all, acknowledge, I and my Father are one. Not I hope to be, not I shall become, but I and the source of my being are one. Let the words be the light switch. Then do not keep flipping it. Be still, and know that I am God. Know I am. That is, notice that awareness is already present, that it is the very presence of God, individualized as you. Spend no energy trying to hold it, to feel it, to decorate it. Rest in it as it rests in you. And now the corrective that will save you years of wandering. You must not pray for yourself. Hear the Master's counsel without dilution, your Father knoweth. To attempt to get something for me or mine in prayer is to drag the holy into a marketplace. We refuse that. Our prayer, if you must call it that, is impersonal. It is for the realization of God's presence as all being. Not for my comfort, nor for my family state, nor for the success of plans, for the appearing in consciousness of the presence that is already the life of the world. If a phrase helps you surrender, let it be this: Father, glorify thyself, or simply, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And then let the silence continue, the sentence where words cannot. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. Put the ear of the heart to the door. Do not try to hear syllables. Hearing here is not of language. It is receptivity. The temptation will come to compose a pious monologue, to rehearse needs, to explain difficulties, gently, lovingly decline. Each time a thought knocks, what about that bill, that pain, that child? Let it come, let it go, and return without argument to the simplest notice: I am. Not as a mantra to pound into the mind, but as an acknowledgement of fact, once, twice, and then quiet. If a verse rises like fragrance, receive it and let it pass. The altar is not a desk. It is a space where God is God as your very being. How long shall you sit? Long enough to become honest. 5 minutes will do for one, 15 for another. The measure is not time, it is consent. You will know you have consented when the shoulders drop and the breath finds its own rhythm and the center in you ceases to lean forward to get. Mark this. You are not trying to fall asleep. Sleep is not your goal. God is your rest. We do not turn to spirit for effects. We turn to spirit because spirit is our life. Yet by the law that cannot be mocked, effects appear. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. Sow identity, reap rest. Sow impersonal love, reap harmony. But keep your eye on the sowing, not on the barn. If the impulse to bless arises, let it be unowned and universal. Do not pick out persons with strings attached. Let the consciousness that is I am flood without direction. The nations, the sick, the rulers, the forgotten. Let it rest on every crib and every deathbed and every watchman. Not yours to decide who shall be comforted. Yours to know that comfort itself is. Say within, perhaps, Father, be thou the life of all, and then release even that. The impersonal Christ is not sent, it is realized. It is not commanded, it is unveiled when the personal will yields. As you approach the edge where thoughts begin to thin, do not grasp them to prolong the sitting, and do not chase them to drive them away. Remember what we have learned. There is a watcher that never sleeps. Consent now. This is the bridge to let that which witnesses this quiet be the same presence that abides as the mind's activity subsides. You are not passing from God to know God. You are remaining in God while instruments fold. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. Entrust yourself not as a child pleading in the dark, but as awareness, recognizing awareness. If a last word is wanted, let it be a bow within, into thy hand. Not into the hands of a deity far off, but into the hands that are the very life of you, God, as individual consciousness. There will be evenings when the mind is noisy, when the day clings like burrs. Do not make a problem of that. Take no thought about taking no thought. Sit anyway. Acknowledge anyway. Yield anyway. What if rest does not come at once? What if dreams are vivid? What if the house creaks and the dog whines and the body remembers its aches? Do not turn this into a project. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty, even liberty from improvement schemes. The practice is not for results, it is for realization. Each time you refrain from self-seeking petition, you loosen an ancient knot. Each time you choose impersonal receptivity, the mind becomes a clearer window, and the soul's harmony appears in lawful ways unseen by human calculation. I knew a mother who suffered the nightly panic over her child's sleep. She would plead, instruct heaven, bargain for hours, and by midnight be exhausted in body and spirit. She dared, at last, to cease praying about sleep and to begin resting as God. 10 minutes by the bedside, no petitions, only the quiet acknowledgement, I and my Father are one, and speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. Then silence. Not once did she ask for the child's rest. Within days, without fanfare, the house became a sanctuary. Was the child changed? Perhaps. But know this, when one sows impersonal peace, home itself reaps rest. Mind, freed of fear's interference, shapes the conditions of body and room in harmony. Law, not magic. God, not manipulation. And so let the rhythm be simple. Evening by evening, enter your inner closet and shut the door, not to exclude the world, but to exclude self-will. Acknowledge oneness, refuse petition, welcome silence, consent to the watcher's watch. Then turn to the pillow as to the altar's other side, confident not in sleep, but in God. If words arise in the night, meet them with the same consent. If you stir at 2 or at 4, do not scold the clock. Let that moment be a brief vigil, no asking, only being. In this way, the continuity that is already true becomes consciously lived. Awareness unbroken through waking, dreaming, and the deep. And you will find, without pride and without advertising, that you become a quiet light for the household and at length for the world, not because you shine, but because the light that never sleeps has met no resistance in you. Now, because you have set your evening on holy ground, let us try a midnight experiment, one so delicate that it could only be spoken in a small room like this, among those who love God more than results. You will not prepare for it. You will not set an alarm to catch it. You will not hold yourself rigidly to do it right. It comes of itself in the humblest way. If in the night you stir, if a floorboard settles, if a breeze brushes the curtain, if the body turns, let the event come as a bell that needs no hand. Do not reach for a verse, do not grasp a mantra, do not compose a sentence, take no thought, merely notice that before a single thought about the moment appears, awareness is already here. It is present without your summoning, prior to your naming. You do not make it. You find that it has never been absent. In that instant, so brief you might miss it if you hurry, you will sense a bare, innocent fact. I am. Not I am awake. Not I am anxious. Not I am trying to sleep. But simply I am. That is the ancient name speaking without syllables. Before Abraham was, I am. Do not embroider it. Do not turn I am into a tool, as if you could work the divine into a system. The mind will be eager to resume, to label, to solve, but postpone it one breath, perhaps two, and notice what is true before the resuming begins. The witness is present, the watcher is watching, and nothing need be done to maintain it. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. In that keeping, nothing is demanded of you except consent. Now, the correction that will save you from the old marketplace, even at midnight, you must not manipulate this moment. No affirmations, no counting, no arrangements with the clock. Let go of, if I do this, I will fall back to sleep, because you have already slipped into asking for yourselves. This is not a technique for sleeping. This is a glimpse of what is true whether you sleep or wake. If you drift back into dreams, let it be from God, not from effort. If you remain wakeful a while, let it be in God, not in fret. Whether we wake or sleep, we live with Him, not later, not when conditions meet our standards, now and always. Be the beholding. Refuse the bait of getting. You will see, with practice that is scarcely practice, that the gap between stirring and thinking is not blank. It is fullness without object. It is the hush in which the name is known. The mind will protest, but I must think, I must plan, I must fix this waking. No, think when the day calls for thinking. Plan when your work requires it. But in the night, when the watcher announces itself by this unearned stillness, honor the sanctuary. Be still and know that I am God. Notice how the body's breath goes on without your command, how the heart keeps its watch without your overseeing. Let these simple evidences preach to you. Life sustains life. God, as your very consciousness, sustains the knowing of God. If a sound enters the tick of a clock, a car in the far street, the sigh of a sleeping child, let it enter the same vastness without becoming a problem or a story. If a sensation passes the weight of blanket, the cool of air on the cheek, let it pass in the same unstirred light. You are not to harden yourself against experience. You are to soften into the one that beholds experience without being altered by it. You will discover that the instant you reach to refine, to fix, to aim this beholding, you have stepped down into mind again, and there is no blame in that. Only the gentle invitation to release and return to the simple I am. As ye sow the seed of identity quietly, impersonally, so you will reap the harvest of rest in the order that soul ordains. not in the order that personal desire demands. Now hear this mercy. There is no failure possible in this experiment because there is nothing to achieve. If you become drowsy at once, do not congratulate yourself. If you remain awake, do not reproach yourself. Leave praise and blame out of it. The grace is not in the state. It is in the noticing of that which is present in every state. In Him we live and move and have our being. If you must bring a word to steady the heart, let it be only this: into thy hand. Then let even those hands be recognized as the very life of you. No distance, no bargaining, no delay. The midnight becomes a sacrament when the personal ceases its commerce and the impersonal I am stands revealed. If in that wakeful hour a tenderness arises for the world, let it arise without direction. Do not gather names. Do not steer the blessing. The moment you try to send peace somewhere, you may slip back into the old control. Rather, realize that peace is, that love is, that God is, the very substance of this awareness. Consent to be its transparency. Without words, without effort, let the nations, the sick, the rulers, the lonely, the watchmen on other walls be included not by your sending, but by your being. Then release even that impulse and rest. And when morning comes, do not leap at once into the day's machinery. Stay where you are for the space of one breath, perhaps two, and seal the night with the simplest recognition. The I am that knew the turning, that watched the dreams, that rested in the deep, is the same I am now looking out through these eyes. Lo, I am with you always. Let the feet find the floor from that knowing. Let the first task be done from that knowing. If a psalm is needed, let it be, this is the day which the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Not as optimism, but as acknowledgement that the day appears in God, not God in the day. Make it your habit, then, not to make a habit of it. Let the midnight door open when it will, and step through it barefoot, wordless, without a lisp. The gift of this small experiment is not sleep, it is freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty from managing God. Liberty from fearing the night. Liberty from worshiping outcomes. And as this liberty becomes natural, you will notice that the household breathes differently, that anxieties loosen, that rest and renewal arrive in lawful ways, but you will not boast and you will not advertise. You will only know quietly that the light did not blink, that the watcher never slept, and that God as your very consciousness accompanied you unbroken through the hours and accompanies you still. Now, because you have touched the still point in the night, let us look quietly at the law by which harmony appears as lawful effect. There is a principle, and it is not caprice. It is not the whim of a deity pleased with some and offended with others. Hear it again, for it rings from Genesis to the Master. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. Or, be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. I have long said, and I say now, that in all the history of the world, God has never punished anyone for anything. What we call punishment is only the harvest of our sowing. The soul, the creative principle, the life of you forever pours itself as harmony, as peace, as rest. Mind is the instrument. Mind is the mold. When mind is free of fear, superstition, judgment, and the ancient belief in two powers, it becomes a clear mold, and soul, through that mold, forms its own conditions of body, of home, of night as harmony. Mark this, the cause is not in the effect. The cause is in the sowing of mind under the government of soul. Since this is law and not luck, you can rely upon it as you rely upon sunrise, not to force it, not to purchase it, but to align with it. A mind filled with grievance cannot shape a peaceful room. A heart rehearsing tomorrow's terrors cannot receive the rest that is already given. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Not as he wishes, not as he bargains, but as he truly entertains in the sanctuary of his being. This is not condemnation, it is mercy, for it places the key within your own consecrated hands. If resentment has been your nightly story, the harvest has had to follow the seed. If anxiety has been the household's lullaby, the body has listened and obeyed. And if tonight, by grace, you sow peace, not with effort, not with manipulation, but with consent, you will reap rest in the order that soul ordains, not in the schedule that ego demands. Now the correction, for without it you will wander. Soul is the creative principle, mind is its instrument. We do not make harmony by mental force, we witness harmony by mental purity. The mind is not the sun, it is the window. Clean the window and the light appears as if by miracle, though the sun was shining long before you took a cloth to the glass. So with you, cleanse the mind of its pet judgments and ancient fears, and you will see that God, as your individual consciousness, was already present as peace itself. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts. Do not manufacture it. The ruling peace is the nature of soul. The letting is the freedom of mind, yielded of self. And how shall we cleanse? By refusing the traffic of two powers, and by forgiving. Judge not, that ye be not judged. Not because judgment makes God angry, but because judgment seeds the very field in which you will walk. Forgive until 70 times 7. Not to be heroic, but because forgiveness loosens the mold that tightens around your nerves and presses upon your bone. Do you see? Each unstated condemnation in the twilight contracts the mold. Each small release, Father, forgive, they know not what they do, widens it. This is metaphysical hygiene, not moral theater. No criticism, no judgment, no condemnation. This is not sentiment, it is law applied. As you decline the bait of blame, you untie the knots that choke the night. As you yield the mind to impersonal love, the soul rushes through the cleared channel and shapes the house with rest. A story, because we are human and we learn by seeing. A foreman wrote me, years of nights spent auditing the day's slights. He lay down and gathered names. The slow worker, the petty superior, the customer with the cutting tone. He sowed, he said, a field of thistles and woke in the field. He had planted jaw tight, heart rapid, no rest. He dared a different sowing. For 2 weeks, before sleep, he sat 10 minutes in silence with one acknowledgement only. I and my Father are one. And then, without selecting or judging, he let the world rest in God through him. He refused to narrate the day. He refused to fix the cast. He wrote later apologizing for what he called a lack of scientific proof, but saying this, when I stopped settling scores in the dark settled me. You might call it coincidence. I call it law. As ye sow peace in impersonal love, so shall ye reap rest inevitably, lawfully, like seed to harvest. And now the practice that makes the law plain without turning it into a market. Before bed, bless the world impersonally, not for yourselves, nor for your families, nor for your plans, for the appearing of the presences all. Sit quietly and refuse judgment. If faces float by, do not arrange them into heroes and villains. Let them be bathed in the same light that bathes you. If you must use words, let them be the Master's own. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Or hear him say to you, peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, and then be still enough to receive what has never been withheld. Let the mind pour peace into the night as naturally as the heart pours blood. Do not aim it. Do not count it. Do not measure result. You are not sending anything. You are letting the soul's own harmony have its rightful rule. Your Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. The reward is not a transaction. It is the unveiling of what is. Refuse, therefore, the old commerce with God. Sleep is not a wage paid for piety. Rest is not a prize for correct technique. Take no thought for your life, for your heavenly Father knoweth. Do you hear? Your rest is known because your life is known, and your life is God. You are not coming to Spirit with a bargain, I will bless the world if I may sleep. No. You come to Spirit because Spirit is your being, and in that yielding, the law, unmoved and unmanipulated, appears as peace in the room, as kindness in the breath, as a body at ease. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, not by cajoling, not by earning, but by being the shepherd who is your very life. Some will ask, but what of the anxious body, the nervous system, the habit? I answer gently, do not despise helps, but do not enthrone them. Sow peace. Refuse judgment. Forgive. Acknowledge oneness. Sit in the quiet and let the mind be a clear mold. In the days that follow, you will notice not fireworks, but lawful signs, a loosening across the brow, a softening in the speech, a room that seems to hold you instead of resisting you. You will not be able to prove it to the skeptic, and you will not try, because proof is not your work, sowing is. Law is God's work, and law never sleeps. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty from retaliation, liberty from fear's nightly projects, liberty from the bondage of two powers. So take up this sowing as a simple grace. The night is not an enemy to be subdued. It is a field already sown by the soul with its own peace. Enter it as a steward, not a merchant. Let your mind, free of grievance and bargaining, pour only what it would gladly reap. And when the harvest appears quietly, naturally do not boast and do not advertise. Give thanks and pass it on without words. In this way the law becomes not a doctrine but a life. Mind yielded, soul creating, peace sown, rest reaped, and the household breathing the liberty of God. Now let us speak plainly about fear in the night. For it is not an enemy to be fought, but a mist to be evaporated by light. Set the record straight and let it be settled in you like a cornerstone. In all the history of the world, God has never punished anyone for anything. What we call punishment is harvest. What we call wrath is law, appearing through the mold we ourselves have offered. God is love. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear. Do you hear the mercy in that? Fear belongs to ignorance, not to love, to superstition, not to spirit. The night itself is not a power for or against you. It is the same God appearing as quiet. The difference is only in the story the mind tells in the dark and the law that obeys the telling. Nightmares, then, are not messages from a punitive heaven. They are residues of belief, damp films developed in the dim room of the mind. Do not condemn yourself for them. Do not analyze them into an idol. Waking or sleeping, the harvest arises of the seeds sown, judgments rehearsed, grievances polished, fears invited to supper. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. But this is not a verdict. It is a door. For what is sown can be rezoned, and what is formed can be reformed when the mold is cleansed. The Master gave us the solvent, and he did not stint on its measure. Forgive until 70 times 7. Forgive the day, forgive the players, forgive the memory that insists on repeating its scene, not by heroic effort, not by moral posing, but by letting light be light. Say within, even as you turn the pillow, Father, forgive, they know not what they do. Include yourself in that mercy. They know not, I knew not, but now the light has come, and the film cannot develop in this brightness. Mark this. The terror that creeps toward the bed at 2 in the morning, what is its presumption? That you are a separate self in a cosmos of two powers, vulnerable to a God who might judge and to a darkness that might swallow. But you are not a separate self, and God is not two. I and my Father are one. The darkness does not swallow God, and God is your very consciousness. The darkness and the light are both alike to thee. If darkness and light are alike to God, and God is individual consciousness, the mind of you, then what is night but another garment on the same life? The fear that something dreadful will overtake you in sleep rests on the ignorance that you vanish there. But every night you pass through the gap of thoughtless deep, and every morning you confess by the very fact of remembering that a witness went with you. Across waking, dreaming, and the deep, a single presence abides. Lo, I am with you alway. If the witness abides through dream and deep, will it falter at a doorway called death? Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Shadow, not substance. Valley, not abyss. The watcher that never sleeps is the you that God is being. Changes come, awareness remains. Bodies alter, being abides. Scenes turn, the seer is untouched. Now, the gentlest correction of all. Do not judge yourself for fear. You will only thicken the film and develop another picture of torment. They know not what they do. Apply it to the world and apply it to yourself. Fear is not sin. Fear is ignorance of oneness. Light, not will, undoes it. Do not lash yourself into courage like a soldier ordered to the front. Sit as a child in the lap of love and let the courage that is love's own nature reveal itself as your nature. Be still and know that I am God. Not be strong and prove it. Be still and see it. Each time fear rises, let it ring and fade in the same open sky of I am. Each time, refuse to barter with it or drown it in affirmations. Acknowledge oneness once, perhaps twice, and then yield to the presence that knows how to keep Israel. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. If memories come in the dark, failures from long ago, faces that accused, rooms that held your breath, let them be met by the law we have rehearsed. Forgive and forgive again. Refuse the ancient commerce of blame and bargain. Release the cast from your judgment. Not to let them off a cosmic hook, but to free the mold of your mind from the iron shape of grievance. This is not passivity. This is metaphysical responsibility. As you cease to rehearse accusation, the mind relaxes into innocence, and the soul rushes through, forming rest where conflict once rehearsed its lines. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty, not only on the sunlit street, but in the hour when the house sighs and the stars keep watch. Not only when you feel holy, but when you feel small. Liberty from a punishing God. Liberty from two powers. Liberty from the fear of what you cannot see. Liberty even from managing fear. I knew a veteran who had made a fortress of the night bolts, lights, a radio murmuring to keep the ghosts away. He came to see that none of these were evil, but none were God. He dared a simpler defense. Each time he startled awake, he gave himself one sentence: I and my Father are one, and then no more sentences. If the images rose, he did not interrogate them. He forgave the actors and himself without a speech. If the heart pounded, he noticed that breath continued without his command, and he thanked the quiet machinery of God. In him we live and move and have our being. Weeks later, he took down one bolt and then another, not as bravado, but because he discovered he was kept from within. You might say the nightmares lessened. I say the light increased. As the light increased, where could the image of terror be projected? So when the night stretches its long cloak around your house, remember, the cloak is God's own garment. Do not hunt for threats in the folds. Do not bargain with the dark as if it were a second will beside the one. Yield your mold to innocence. Sow forgiveness again and again. Forgive 70 times 7. Not counting, not congratulating. Let love be what it is, without your shaping. And if you walk some night into a room that feels heavy, do not fight the air. Bless it by being still. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Let the witness be felt as your very awareness. Let the rod and the staff of presence be enough. The night holds no threat when God is known as love and the self is known as abiding awareness. Then, even while dreams play at edges and shadows lengthen on the wall, you will find the unmoving center, and from it the whisper that frees. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom even in the night, especially in the night, where the old stories have no place to cling, and the eternal I Am is heard as your own name. Now, since we have spoken of law and liberty and the watcher who never sleeps, let us look quietly at the small, tender evidences that come when prayer releases petition and becomes simple receptivity. I speak of these things rarely, and never to advertise results, for your Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. And even the word reward is too commercial for what I mean. You might call them coincidences, I will not argue. I only say that when the mind ceases its commerce and love is allowed to be love, harmony appears without trumpet or bargain, not for ourselves, nor for our families, nor for any controlled list, but as God's own order unfolding. There was a mother honest, weary in the bones with months of her child's night terrors. She had prayed as she had been taught. She had begged. She had promised. She had rebuked shadows and rehearsed scriptures like charms. None of this is evil, but none of it is God. One evening she came to the end of her managing. She sat in the doorway of the small room, the hall light low, and she laid down every sentence but one. Suffer the little children to come unto me, and forbid them not, for of such is the kingdom of God. Then even that she let sink below words. She refused to make a project of the child. She refused to accuse the night. She simply recognized, with no embroidery, that the Christ is the identity of that little one, and the Christ is the identity of herself. One life, one light, God as individual consciousness appearing here and there without division. She did not ask for sleep. She did not rebuke a dream. She did not count the hours. Take no thought, the Master said, and she took no thought, only silent, surrendered, beholding. The first night was not a miracle pageant. There was a stirring, a whimper, a soft touch of her hand on the blanket, no incantation, only presence. Lo, I am with you always. The second night, quieter. The third, quiet. In a week, she found herself forgetting to listen for the cry. A month later, she wrote not triumphantly, not with a technique to sell, but with a sentence that said it all. Peace issued forth. You might say the child outgrew it. You might say cycles broke. Say what you will. I say the mold of mind was cleansed of fear and grievance, and soul formed its own condition of peace. He shall give his beloved sleep. The child was beloved before she asked. The mother learned to let the love that always was have its way. And there was an insomniac, years of trying devices, murmuring, books by the bed about sleep hygiene, the clock face, a tyrant. He came at last to a kindly despair, and with it to a different obedience. He did not try to sleep, mark that. He did not try to sleep. He prepared the bed as a sacrament without superstition, without bargaining, and he lay down with only, "Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth." Then he said nothing and did nothing. If wakefulness came, he gave it to God. If drowsiness came, he did not chase it as prey. If thoughts came, he let them pass like birds, unaware of the sky that bore them. He called it practicing, but in truth it was unpracticing, an end of management. The first nights brought no great change, only the discovery that even at 2 in the morning, life was present and kind, breathing him without his help. Then, not as a goal reached, but as a grace unnoticed until it had already happened, rest returned. He would awake at dawn, startled to find that hours had passed as if under a wing. He wrote apologizing for the lack of proof and saying almost shyly, "I was not seeking sleep. I was consenting to God, and sleep appeared while I forgot to ask. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Rest was added, God was sought. There was a healer, too, if we may use that word, for a servant who knows they can do nothing of themselves. Midnight after midnight, this one kept a vigil, not for clients, not for reputation, not for the hope of a letter reporting success. 3 times a day, and sometimes in the deep night when the room itself remembered sorrows, they sat with one confession only: I and my Father are one, and by extension and inclusion, that oneness without border, world in God, God is world substance. They did not gather names, they did not send energies, they did not fasten thought on nations or ailments. They obeyed. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, and then fell silent, letting the kingdom be the very fact of awareness. In those seasons, I would hear from others reports of harmonies that had no advertised source. A man said a fever broke at midnight with a sense of warmth he could not explain. A woman wrote that the bitterness of an argument collapsed like a badly built stage set. She and her sister found themselves laughing in a kitchen that had been a courtroom. Another, tempted to a dishonest gain, felt an unaccountable clarity and chose the straight path without regret. Coincidences? Of course, if you wish. Law working, whether or not we name it? Yes. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty in a bloodstream, in a kitchen, in a conscience, found not because anyone aimed a thought, but because presence is sufficient and mind did not obstruct. Now hear this preemptive humility, lest we turn these kindnesses into a new market. We do not promise outcomes. We do not tell God what good must look like, at what hour it must arrive, or by what road. It would be presumption to draw a line from a vigil to a fever's breaking as if we held a ledger of cause and effect, and yet why should it surprise us that when the window is clean, light looks like light upon the floor? Why should it trouble us to admit that whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap? These small stories are not advertisements. They are witnesses, quiet, almost embarrassed, testifying to the sufficiency of the presence that is already the life of you and of the world. The point, then, is not result, but reality. When prayer ceases to be a list and becomes listening, when it is impersonal receptivity instead of personal demand, harmony appears in its own forms and times, often without asking, often without fanfare. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am, as your very consciousness never sleeps. And watch how, without a hand lifted to control, the house breathes easier, the child sleeps, the heart forgives, the body remembers it's quiet. If you must have a word, let it be gratitude, gratitude without pride, without ownership. Not unto us, O Lord, not unto us, but unto thy name give glory. And when, as will happen, a night seems barren and no evidence appears, do not withdraw your consent. Do not begin the old commerce again. The Lord does not sleep, and love is not measured by your ledger. Keep the doorway open. Keep the small watch. Let the world rest in God through you without directing it, and let the secrecy be its own assurance. In this way, the stories multiply without needing to be told. Hearts are healed without being asked. Rest is restored without being bargained for. And the quiet light you are becomes the room in which others find, to their surprise, that they have stopped trying and God has been God all along. Now we come to the holy practicality of it, how a few who love God can let the world rest in God through them, without fanfare, without advertisement, without the market's noise, simply by consenting to be what they are, light. There can be no mass salvation. There never has been. The work of Spirit moves not by crowds stirred to fever, but by small circles, quiet and steady, who refuse to make a show of God. The infinite way of life has always known this. We do not advertise. We do not recruit. There is no membership to join, no dues to pay, no promise to sign. You are free, free to come, free to go, free to learn, free to forget, because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And in that liberty, groups of perhaps 20 or 25 students, or 3, or 2, or 1, take up a rhythm not for themselves, nor for their families, nor for their businesses, but for the world. This is the way the light spreads, not by display, but by being. The rhythm is simple, and because it is simple, it is exacting. 3 times a day, without announcing it to anyone, you sit 10 or 15 minutes in pure receptivity. Morning, as the world wakes into its tasks, midday, when minds are most tempted to hurry, evening, as lamps are lit and houses remember their stories, and then a gentle vigil before sleep. No lists, no bargaining, no projects, only the posture of, "Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth." If a sentence must begin the opening, let it be the Master's. "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done." If another rises as confirmation, let it be identity itself. "I and my Father are one." Then be still, for your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. And your work is not to tell God what things are needed, but to let God be God as universal presence. Now, you will ask, but how shall we hold the world? Not with opinions, not with causes, not with a clenched fist of a good intention. We hold the world by not holding it at all. We behold it in God. We refuse the old traffic of 2 powers. We decline to take sides in heaven's name. Mark this well, for it is the difference between white magic and holy surrender. We do not pray for this nation against that, this party against that, this movement against that. Judge not, that ye be not judged. Each judgment is a seed that will bloom in your own mind. Each partial prayer is a mold that will warp the form it casts. Our way is the impersonal Christ realized as all, not people improved, but God recognized as the only life of people and nations and systems, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Therefore we release men and women and governments from our design. We let the presence that is already the mind of you be also the mind of all, without our engineering. You will discover that this impersonal watch increases, not decreases, your love for the particular. When you take your seat in the small circle, the neighbor who wronged you last week may float before you. Release him into the same light you consent to for the world. The leader whose speech troubled you, the child in a hospital you will never enter, the worker bent at a late machine across the sea, each is met not as a problem to fix, but as the very sight of God's appearing. In him we live and move and have our being. Each time your mind reaches to control, return to the simplicity that ends argument. Thy will be done. Each time anger dresses itself as righteousness, remember the solvent that undoes the film. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Not once, but until 70 times 7. And then again when you have lost count. In this way, mind remains a clear mold and soul pours its harmony as law. Here is the marvel that humbles pride and strengthens patience. As these circles keep the rhythm, An awareness thread crosses the hours and the hemispheres. While you sleep, another somewhere is consenting to God, and while they sleep, another carries the same consent. Dawn in one city meets midnight in another, and the vigil does not end because clocks disagree. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. Understand this not as a command to human effort, but as a revelation of divine continuity. The watcher that never sleeps is the I Am, and the circles are only consenting windows through which the one sun shines in every time zone. And so, when your body grows drowsy and slips away into deep stillness, you need not imagine that the thread breaks. It is held by the one who holds all, and yet you will find, as practice matures, that even across the change of states there remains a sense quiet, unboastful, that awareness abides. Lo, I am with you always. Do not think this small. Do not think it ineffective because it is hidden. Seeds do not debate their strategy. They rest in law, and by that rest they break open the earth. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. Sow the world in peace impersonally, without a plan for outcome, and you will reap in the order love appoints the quiet evidences of a universe governed from within. You may never know, and must not require to know, how a border cools instead of burns, or how a kitchen laughs instead of judges, or how a conscience chooses the straight way in the night. It is enough to be faithful to the rhythm and faithful to the ethic of non-control. Religion becomes a shamble when it turns prayer into a marketplace. Spirit becomes visible when prayer becomes surrender, when we cease to try to get and begin to let. This mission asks no heroics. It asks only that you be what you are, and that you do it together in the way that prevents pride from taking root. No one leads as a personality. The presence leads. No one reports results. Life testifies in its own time, and usually to someone else in the humble side streets of Providence. The circle is not a club, it is a consent. It meets in living rooms and offices before the doors open, in hospital corridors when the elevator is late, on park benches at noon with eyes open to the sparrows. Be still and know that I am God. That is the whole charter. And if the circle grows, it will not become a mass. It will become many small circles, each carrying the same law and the same rhythm, because the pattern itself forbids the Tower of Babel and insists on the upper room. You will feel, as this rhythm deepens, a widening tenderness that is not sentiment. It is the Christ love that has no borders. You will walk past a newspaper stand and feel no compulsion to argue with headlines. You will sit at the edge of a sleeping child's bed and refuse to turn the cradle into a shrine of fear. You will hear of distant tremors and, without opinion, let the world rest in God through you. Then carry that same poise to your pillow. The vigil before sleep is not a fourth duty added to the day. It is the day's surrender into the continuity of the one. Lay down every outcome. Lay down every name. Lay down even the image of yourself as watcher, and let the watcher be the one who has never closed his eyes upon creation. Thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. So from me to we, and from we to the world, not as a chain of command, but as a circle of light that never sleeps, let the rhythm be your humility, the ethic of non-control your purity, the impersonal Christ your only cause. In such a life, our continuity of awareness matures without strain, and the world, without being asked and without being managed, finds rest in God through us. And we, finding ourselves in that same rest, give thanks and keep the watch. Now, dear ones, we come to the commission, and we keep it in the same small room spirit in which we began. I do not say this in public. I say it to God lovers who will not turn it into a slogan, but into a life. The Master's word is not a compliment, it is identity. Ye are the light of the world. Mark it well. You do not take light into the night as if light were a torch you could forget. You are the light in which the night itself appears. The darkness is not a second power. It is simply the light wearing a quieter garment. God is individual consciousness, the mind of you. Therefore, the I am that abides through waking and dreaming and the great silence of deep sleep is the same I am by which morning breaks and birds remember their hymns. The watcher that never sleeps is not outside you. It is your very self in God. I and my Father are one. Now for the walk, simple enough for a child and exact enough for a saint. Each morning before the world puts on its many masks and before you put on yours, pause on the threshold of waking and let one recognition seal the day. I am is here before I think. Not I will begin to be aware when I rouse, but awareness is already present and I awaken within it. This is your quiet authority. Then do not bargain with God for safety or supply, for your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. Take no thought for tomorrow's bread or today's defense. Stand a moment in the stillness that prays without words. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. And then go about your tasks without strain. What you carry is not a plan. What you carry is presence, and presence is self-executing law. In the evening, we seal the circle, not with a tally of victories and defeats, but with a surrender that frees the mold of mind to be clean for the night. Forgive consciously 70 times 7 if need be, until you cannot remember the arithmetic. Forgive the day's faces, the strange look in the mirror, the headline that tempted you to judge. Refuse the old market of prayer that buys and sells outcomes. Give freedom as your gift to all. Release men and women and governments from your designs. Release the world from your saving. Release yourself from your management. Let your last act of the day be wordless, receptivity, identity-centered and impersonal. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Then be still. As ye sow in that stillness, so shall ye reap. And what is sown as peace in the mind is reaped as rest in the body by the law of soul. Now hear the great sending that contains no strain. Go ye out, yes, but not as crusaders. Heal the sick and raise the dead, yes, but begin with the sick assumptions and dead beliefs that have crowded the temple of your own mind. You will not plead with God to change conditions. You will abide in the one presence that changes the seer and thereby the seen. I can of mine own self do nothing, said the Master. And he did all things by not doing them of himself. We do not aim thoughts at persons. We do not call down powers like actors on a stage, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. The Spirit accomplishes by being itself. Your office is to get out of its way and witness its sufficiency where the world had pictured a lack. Carry the dawn into common rooms, in the office where ambition spars with fear. Sit 3 breaths in the interior silence and remember, in him we live and move and have our being. On the tram where faces glaze under burdens, bless without words, no criticism, no judgment, no condemnation, and watch how the air around you forgets to be tight. In a hospital corridor, do not argue with appearances. Be still and recognize one life appearing as many forms. And let that recognition be the anointing. You will not always see a result, and you must not require to see one. Yet you will grow familiar with a certain lightness that enters rooms as if through windows you did not open. Let your light so shine before men, not by display, but by being what you cannot help but be. Make midday your corrective sacrament. When noise and news try to capture your consciousness, step aside, even if only within, and take up the identity that cannot be disturbed. I and my Father are one. If a quarrel rises in you, do not rehearse it into reality. Forgive and forgive again. Judge not, that ye be not judged. Each judgment is a seed, and the law never sleeps. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. Sow freedom, reap freedom. Sow innocence, reap rest. This is not psychology. This is soul law, finding a clear instrument in a mind released from superstition and fear. And now the assurance that makes all this not effort but ease. What abides in the night abides in the noon. There are not two presences, one tender after dusk and another harsh at midday. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. Understand this not as a divine insomnia, but as the eternal constancy of the one being that is the very awareness by which you know a sunbeam and a star. The darkness and the light are both alike to thee. If they are alike to God, they are alike in you, where God is being you. Do you see the gift? You need not ramp yourself up for the day, nor brace yourself for the night. You are carried within a continuity that does not begin with your first thought, nor end with your last sigh. Therefore, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty, and the first liberty of the spiritual life is the refusal to control. You are free, and in that same breath, you make others free. Free from your plans, free from your anxieties, free from the subtle hope that they will become what you imagine. This is why our way knows no membership and requires no vows. Love does not conscript. Let liberty be your fragrance. When you depart a room, leave no pressure behind you, only the quiet sense that God was enough there. So we take our places in the humble upper rooms of the world, 2 in a kitchen, 3 in a shop before the doors open, 1 at a window before sleep, and we keep the rhythm that keeps no ledger. The circles shine without show. Dawn meets midnight across the hemispheres, and the vigil is one unbroken consent to God. Lo, I am with you always. And because that is so, you need not make yourself brave nor make your prayer long. Live as the light that never sleeps. Begin each morning with, I am is here before I think, and let that recognition walk you into your hours. End each evening with, Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth, and give the night back to the one who never left it. Go ye out not to win, but to witness, not to persuade, but to be. Heal the sick not by diagnosing, but by knowing there is one life. Raise the dead not by spectacle, but by refusing to believe in separations that never were. Comfort the fearful not by promises, but by presence. And when you have done none of this, as far as you can tell, yet kept the stillness and given freedom, count it all faithfulness and take no credit. The witness never sleeps, and neither does love. Therefore, beloved, carry the dawn, carry it in your face, in your silence, in your refusal to make God a market. Let the world rest in God through you, and having carried it, rest, for the light you are is the day that never ends.